my main topic has to do with kind of a question that I don't think anybody can definitely answer.
Cool, let's answer it.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about pickup height. Pickup height is really, I feel like, it might be more important than your pickups, than what pickups you have in your guitar. Reason why I say that is you can have a completely lifeless guitar when you play it, change the pickup height, and you're like, oh, this is a great guitar. Like, you can... Okay, lifeless is maybe not the right word.
Let's step back away from everything you just said and let's try that again.
What I'm saying is you can have a guitar that like feels good in your hands,
Okay.
but the sound isn't quite there,
Okay.
and you're not happy entirely with it.
Yep.
And then you adjust the pickup height, and you're like, oh, this is phenomenal sounding.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
Tone.
Okay.
Tone.
Yes, I'm with you. I think so. That begs a few questions, right? So it begs the question, what's the output on your pickups? So if you've got super high output pickups, probably don't need them really close to the strings. It also begs the question of your individual pole piece, what type of pickup it is too. Your individual pole pieces, if they can be adjusted like a humbucker, if you've adjusted those. We're talking about tilt.
Right.
All those things in there are huge factors. Tom Bukovac, our man, is always talked about how he likes his pickups lower for the most part. He said they sound more like a record.
Except P90s.
Except P90s. He thinks P90s need to be jacked way up, which I don't totally disagree. And I took a look the other day. It's funny you bring this up because I was kind of looking at pickup height the other day, and he was doing one of his bench videos where he's restringing his Jeff Sin Strat, I think is what it was. And I was looking at his Strat because we had just done some modifications on your Strat here recently.
Right.
And I was looking at the pickup height on your Strat, and I looked at the pickup height on that Jeff Sin Strat. Pickups are completely different. He's actually got 3 bridge pickups in there.
Right.
Which is a little different, a little unique.
It is weird.
I'd be curious to know what they measure at, or at least something comparable.
The output, yeah.
And kind of see what the output is on yours. Because the way he's got his set up, his pickup covers on his Strat are almost even, just barely peeking above the pick guard.
I think it's completely dependent on those pickups.
Well, and the setup of your strings, because if your strings are closer to the fretboard, obviously they're going to be closer to the pickups the higher your string height is.
So
you can't judge it by the pickup or the pick guard.
Right.
You can't judge it by that.
No. I think so. I have an Eric Johnson Strat. If you haven't seen it, it's the rosewood board. It's pretty much all stock except for we put in a treble bleed.
Yep.
And then change some of the capacitors.
Yep.
However, my neck and my bridge pickup are probably like 1/2 centimeter up from the pick guard, and the middle pickup is almost equal with the pick guard.
Mm-hmm.
So it is quite a bit higher than Tom's.
Yep.
But I have staggered pole pieces. I've tilted almost every time you see a Strat with me, it's going to have the treble side raised and the bass lowered. I do like some thump, but I don't like it muddy, and I don't like it overpowering the treble. Like, you have a Strat for a reason in my book. Also, you got a tone knob for a reason. So, like, that's kind of why I do that. But I like, Dire Straits Sultan Swing. That's what I want out of a, second, selector switch.
Second position
Second
or
position.
fourth position, depending on your opinion. I don't totally understand which is
I will
which.
say, I don't use 2 and 4 very often. I'm mostly in 1 or 5.
Okay.
The only time I use the middle is if I'm getting my Hendrix on, or quackiness, because I'm quacky.
Right.
But what I'm trying to get at is that pickup height is totally dependent on the guitar. So even if it's Strat to Strat, the pickups are going to be different. The guitar itself is going to be different. You have to figure out the wood. I feel like really where it comes mostly into play with pickup height that's super important is when you go from single coil humbucker P90, because my humbuckers are pretty low.
Yeah.
My neck pickup in my SG, it is pretty much flush with the guitar. The bridge pickup is raised a little, but it's still pretty low in comparison to where my Telly and my Strat lie.
Yeah.
I don't have a P90 guitar, so I can't really vouch for that. But I feel like pickup height is one of those things, if you have not messed with it, it can totally change your feelings towards the guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it plays decent. It's changed your feelings on the tone of the guitar, I should say.
I think a lot of people immediately jump to switching pickups whenever maybe if they adjusted their pickup height, it would make them much happier.
Exactly.
Something else to consider too is like, so the pickup rings on some of these guitars. On these, this is a reissue, and on the reissues, the pickup rings are a lot taller. So the pickup is going to set closer to flat on that. Where whenever you've got some of these import guitars, the pickup ring is actually shallower. It's much shorter. It's almost half the size. So then your pickup's got to stick out a lot more. I think whenever they get shipped from the manufacturer, they've obviously got standard specs they go off of. And they measure from the pickup to the bottom of the string, generally speaking. And every manufacturer is going to have a little different setup with it. I think it's a good place to start by just playing with it where it's at, obviously. But start tweaking with moving it down. Start tweaking with moving it up, maybe even. That's something I've kind of messed with here recently with this Les Paul, and I need to do it some more. I brought these down slightly. They were not super high, but they were higher than I thought they needed to be. Whenever I would swap guitars, I'm not trying to make all my guitars equal volume or equal sound, nothing like that. However, when you swapped, you can immediately tell like, ooh, this thing was hot.
Right.
And these aren't hot output pickups. So I definitely dropped some of this down some. My Duesenberg, those pickups were really hot knit too. I also brought that down some. Especially the bridge. The neck, I think I kept pretty close to the same, that P90. So maybe that's some of that, like we talked about earlier, P90s need to be jacked up a little bit higher.
Right.
So I would take a look at that. Obviously, you can adjust all these pole pieces. I am not a person that really adjusts pole pieces a whole lot. Some people really get in the nitty gritty with that. I've heard of some people bringing up the G string slightly because they feel like the G string is maybe like a little bit lower in output for whatever reason. Especially on Les Pauls, I've heard that. I've never had that be an issue.
Right. Honestly, the reason I started messing with pickup height was my telly. I had my bridge pickup so loud and my neck was so quiet.
Well, and it was very dark.
Completely. So I raised the neck pickup and I love that guitar. Especially the middle position. On a telly, like that's where I live most of the time. So I think that's where I started with the pickup height journey. And then I slowly realized like I need to do this on all my guitars.
Yeah. And as I'm sitting here looking at these pickups, the pole pieces are raised kind of like the fretboard. Like it's pretty flat on both E's. And then as you move inward, it creeps up a little bit. So maybe there is something to that too. I would just say go play with it. And use your ears. It's great to get measurements from somebody, but every piece of wood is going to be different. Every pickup wind is going to be slightly different. You're going to have to use your ears some, and I think we all hate that answer.
Be careful with single coils, because if you really jack them up, you can get choke out.
Yeah, you can get those weird wolf tones, and it's just odd.
So just be careful. Don't raise your single coils too high. But other than that, do whatever the heck you want. So
yeah, I've seen to the point to where some people are like playing, and whenever they go to play, their string are almost hidden their pole pieces.
Right.
To me, that's obviously way too close. We can get in the whole debate. We need to get into it at some point, but people talk about like, oh, one pickup is better because then you don't have the pole pieces of the neck pickup pulling on it. So we'll talk about that another time. That's kind of interesting too. But